From innocent mistakes that destroy championship dreams to caddies sabotaging careers without swinging a club. These are the most illegal tricks in golf that got players banned. All right, there are a lot of ways to ruin a great week in golf. Forgetting the rules shouldn't be one of them, but here we are. Ana Pelaez Trevino was having the best week of her career at the 2024 AIG Women's Open at St. Andrews. The 26-year-old Spanish rookie shot 72, 74, sat at 2 over par, and was safely inside the cut at a major for the first time. Everything was smooth until her caddy, Miguel Evangelio Gomez Escolar, decided to whip out a rangefinder on the 10th hole. One slight issue: rangefinders at the AIG Women's Open are about as legal as bringing a chainsaw to the tee box. The R&A bans distance measuring devices. First offense, 2 strokes. Second offense, disqualification. He used it twice. Once on 10, again on 18. Ana was disqualified before she even knew anything had happened. Here's the brutal part. If he'd only done it once, she eats 2 penalty shots and still makes the cut. But 2 uses? Automatic disqualification. No debate, no grace, just heartbreak. When your caddy knocks you out of a major, your choices are pretty simple. Get a new one or hold a very direct meeting titled, "Do not touch that." Next up, missing a putt sucks. We all know that feeling. But what Zach Blair did after missing one? That's a whole different level of bad decision-making. At the 2016 Wells Fargo Championship, Blair missed a putt and lost it. Complete meltdown. He grabbed his putter and smashed it against his own head in frustration. Not just a tap, a full swing. The putter bent. Now here's where most players would realize they've got a problem. Under Rule 4-3B, a club that's damaged outside the normal course of play becomes non-conforming. You can't use it anymore. Simple. Either replace it or just stop putting with it and take the penalties. Blair kept using it. He finished the hole with a bent putter, the metal visibly warped from his moment of rage. Then he did something that sealed his fate. He reported it to officials himself, an act of complete honesty that turned into his own death sentence. The officials had no choice. He'd used a non-conforming club. Disqualification. The irony is almost painful. If Blair had just kept his mouth shut, maybe nobody notices. But his integrity got him kicked out of the tournament. He could have thrown the putter in a lake, grabbed a new one, and moved on. Instead, he bent it, used it, admitted it, and watched his weekend before lunch. Coming in next, sometimes it's not what you do on the course that destroys you. Sometimes it's what's in your bag before you even tee off. Ian Woosnam was absolutely crushing it at the 2001 Open Championship at Royal Lytham. He birdied the first hole of his final round and was right there in contention for the Claret Jug, playing some of the best golf of his career at a major. This was his moment. Then, his caddy leaned over with some news that would haunt them both forever. You've got 15 clubs in the bag, one over the legal limit of 14. The realization hit like a freight train. Woosnam's face went from focused to horrified in seconds. He knew exactly what this meant. 2-stroke penalty per hole where the violation occurred, up to a maximum of 4 strokes. His championship hopes didn't just take a hit, they evaporated completely. The extra club had been sitting there unnoticed for multiple holes. Nobody counted, nobody checked. Just an assumption that everything was fine until it absolutely wasn't. Woosnam finished tied for 3rd, but the damage was irreversible. This wasn't some random tournament. This was the Open Championship, one of golf's 4 majors. His window to win another major slammed shut because someone couldn't count to 14. The mistake became one of the most infamous equipment violations in golf history, a cautionary tale that still gets told decades later. Next up, one where family help turns into career destruction. Because sometimes the people trying to help you are the ones who ruin everything. The LPGA Q Series isn't just another tournament. It's the tournament that determines who gets a tour card and who goes home. Careers are made or broken here. The pressure is suffocating. Doris Chen hit a tee shot out of bounds. Her mother, watching from the property line, saw the ball land out and made a decision. She moved it back inbounds. Chen found her ball sitting there, perfectly playable, and hit it without calling a rules official. A homeowner along the course saw the whole thing and reported it to LPGA officials. Here's the crushing detail. Officials confirmed that Chen and her caddy both knew the ball had been moved. This wasn't ignorance, this wasn't confusion. They knew. What should have happened? Return to the tee, replay the shot, call a rules official, take the penalty, and move on. What actually happened? Chen played the wrong ball from the wrong place and said nothing. Violation of Rule 15-3B, playing a wrong ball. Disqualification. The weight of this one hits different. This wasn't just losing a random tournament. This was potentially losing her shot at a tour card at a professional career because her mother tried to help and she let it happen. Up next, when your ball lands under a tree, you've got two choices. Take an awkward stance and stain your pants, or get creative. Craig Stadler chose creative. Big mistake. During the third round at Torrey Pines, Stadler's ball ended up wedged beneath some low-hanging branches. To hit the shot, he'd have to kneel in the dirt and mud. Not wanting to ruin his pants, he did what seemed perfectly reasonable. He laid down a towel to kneel on. He played the shot, finished his round, signed his scorecard, and walked away thinking he'd tied for second place. Solid week. Good money, time to celebrate. Then the phone calls started coming in. TV viewers watching from home noticed the towel and immediately dialed tournament officials. Rule 13-3. You cannot build a stance. The towel, innocent as it seemed, gave Stadler an artificial base that improved his positioning. Violation. And since he'd already signed his scorecard without adding penalty strokes, it became even worse. Incorrect scorecard. Disqualification. Just like that, his second place finish vanished. The prize money? Gone. All because he didn't want dirty knees. Here's the redemption twist, though. In 1995, Stadler was invited back to Torrey Pines to cut down the actual tree that caused all the trouble. But the damage was already done. A towel and a phone call from someone's couch cost him a tournament he'd basically already won. All right, we move on. When you're a major champion with 8 PGA Tour wins under your belt, getting disqualified from a tournament probably isn't on your list of concerns, especially not at a course where you'd already won before. But in 2022 at the Memorial Tournament, Hideki Matsuyama learned that even the pros can fall victim to the rulebook in the most unexpected ways. Matsuyama arrived at Muirfield Village in Ohio, ready for another solid week. His equipment technician, trying to be helpful, had applied a thick white substance to the face of his 3-wood as an alignment aid. Think correction fluid. That stuff you use to cover up mistakes on paper. Except this time, the mistake was using it in the first place. The problem? That much substance doesn't just help with alignment. It can alter spin rates and ball flight characteristics. And under the rules, that makes the club completely illegal. Non-conforming. Matsuyama had no idea anything was wrong. By the time officials caught up with him at the second tee, the damage was done. Had he simply been carrying the club without using it, he'd have been fine. But he'd already hit it off the first tee, one swing. That's all it took. Disqualified on the 10th hole. For a player who'd won the Masters just a year earlier, it was a brutal way to go out. Someone trying to help him ended his week before it even started, sliding into the next moment. Disqualifications don't only happen because of dramatic mistakes, and DA points proved that sometimes all it takes is something as ridiculous as a sponge ball on a stick. Points was playing his second round at Pebble Beach Golf Links in February 2014, waiting on the 18th tee, his 9th hole of the day. While killing time, he pulled out a training aid, a small, spongy ball attached to the end of a stick, used for practice swings. Seemed harmless enough. To be honest, it was the same color as his shirt, so it almost went unnoticed on camera. Almost. He took a few practice swings and continued his round. He shot 75, signed his scorecard, and submitted it. You know, that's when the rules officials delivered the bad news. Citing Rule 14-3, you can't use anything during a round that might assist you in making a stroke, especially a training aid specifically designed to help with swing mechanics. The penalty isn't 2 strokes or a stern warning. It's disqualification. No exceptions. Points had done everything right on the course. He'd played solid golf at one of the most iconic venues in the world. But none of that mattered anymore. Who knew your biggest rival at Pebble Beach could be a practice aid the size of a ping pong ball? Which brings us to the next one. Weather delays happen. Courses back up. Players wait on tee boxes for 30 minutes with nothing to do. So they find ways to stay loose. Julie Inkster, a Hall of Famer with 7 major championships, pulled out a weighted training aid during a 30-minute wait on the 10th tee at the 2010 Safeway Classic. She took some practice swings, trying to keep her muscles warm and her rhythm intact. just passing time like thousands of golfers do on driving ranges every single day. Someone watching on TV noticed, reported it. Officials reviewed the footage. Violation. Inkster was disqualified during her third round. She claimed she was completely unaware that swinging a weighted training aid during a stipulated round violated the rules. And honestly, it's easy to see how a player might not know. You're just trying to stay ready during a long wait, not gain some competitive advantage. But ignorance of the rules has never been a defense in golf. Not for amateurs. Not for weekend warriors. And certainly not for legends. This wasn't some rookie making a careless mistake. This was one of the greatest female golfers ever, getting bounced from a tournament because a viewer called it in from their living room. The rules don't care about your resume. They don't care about your intentions. They only care about what you did. Coming in next. In 2019, golf changed one of its oldest rules. Ball search time got cut from 5 minutes to 3. It's drilled into every golfer's head now. But when you're in thick fescue with 12 people searching, time disappears faster than you think. Nasa Hataoka's approach shot to the par 5 ninth hole, her final hole of the day, found some particularly nasty rough at the ShopRite LPGA Classic. The search began immediately. More than 12 people started hunting through the grass, everyone trying to help find the ball before time expired. The ball was eventually found. Hataoka talked to a rules official, took an unplayable lie, made par, and signed for an opening round 65. Everything looked perfect. Then officials reviewed the video footage after the round. She'd spent more than 3 minutes looking for the ball. Once that 3-minute mark passes, the ball is officially lost. Doesn't matter if you find it afterward, the rules say it's gone. Hataoka needed to go back and replay the shot under stroke and distance. She didn't. That's playing from the wrong place with significant advantage, and that carries one penalty: disqualification. The cruel part? She had until she left the scoring area to fix it, but by the time officials told her what happened, it was too late. Her 65 became a disqualification because everyone lost track of time while trying to help. Up next. Sometimes the violation is so subtle you need slow motion replay just to catch it. But catch it they did. Simon Dyson was putting during his second round at the 2013 BMW Masters when he tapped down something on his line. Just a little press. Barely visible in real time. Most people watching probably didn't even notice, but TV viewers noticed. They always notice. Reports flooded in. Officials reviewed the footage frame by frame. Violation of Rule 16-1A. You cannot improve your line of play. That tap, however small, gave Dyson a smoother path to the hole. 2-stroke penalty. Except here's where it gets worse. Dyson had already signed his scorecard without including the penalty. Incorrect score. That's an automatic disqualification. But officials weren't done digging. They found similar violations earlier in the season. Multiple instances of the same behavior. Now, it wasn't just a mistake anymore, it was a pattern. The punishment escalated fast. 30,000-pound fine and a suspended ban. This is modern professional golf. High-definition cameras capture everything. Eagle-eyed viewers sitting at home become unpaid rules officials, watching every broadcast, ready to call in violations that players might not even realize they've committed. Nothing goes unnoticed. Not anymore. One small tap on a spike mark, and Dyson's reputation took a hit that lasted far longer than the tournament itself. Moving to the next one. Here's a story that flips the script completely because not every rules violation destroys you. Sometimes it ignites something that makes you unstoppable. Stacey Lewis was grinding through the 2013 R.R. Donnelley LPGA Founders Cup when someone watching on TV spotted her caddy doing something suspicious in a bunker. He appeared to bounce his foot in the sand, testing the condition before Lewis played her shot. That's a violation of Rule 13-4. You cannot test a hazard before playing from it. The call came in. Officials reviewed the footage. 2-stroke penalty assessed. For most players, that's the beginning of the end. The mental blow of getting penalized mid-tournament, knowing someone at home caught your mistake, usually leads to a collapse. Frustration builds, confidence crumbles, the round falls apart. Not Stacey Lewis. She used it as fuel. Instead of letting the penalty derail her week, she turned it into motivation. She went out in the final round and fired a 64, one of the best rounds of the entire tournament. Birdie after birdie. Relentless pressure on the leaderboard. By the time Sunday ended, she'd won the whole thing. But here's the incredible twist. Lewis later thanked the TV viewer for calling it in. She said it motivated her to play even better, to prove something to herself and everyone watching. The caddy's mistake became her fire. Sometimes a rules violation doesn't end your week. Sometimes it's exactly what you need. For our next one, let's close with another example of TV viewers serving as unpaid rules officials, proving that nowhere is safe from scrutiny when the cameras are rolling. Miguel Angel Martin was playing the 2005 British Masters when his ball ended up in trouble. To hit the shot, he needed stable footing on uneven ground. As he took his stance, he stepped on a small sapling, pressing it down under his foot. Seemed minor, just trying to get balanced for a difficult lie. But someone watching on TV noticed and reported it to officials. They reviewed the footage and determined Martin had violated Rule 13-2, improving your area of intended stance. Here's the critical distinction that sealed his fate. Officials decided he could have avoided standing on the sapling. If he'd had no other choice, if there was no way to take his stance without stepping on it, they might have let it slide. But since he had other options, it became a clear violation. The devastating part? Martin had already signed his scorecard without adding the penalty strokes. Incorrect score. Disqualification. His tournament ended not because of a bad swing or a missed putt, but because of a sapling most people wouldn't even notice and a TV viewer with a sharp eye and a telephone. That's modern professional golf. Every shot is under a microscope. Every stance is being analyzed. And sometimes the person who ends your tournament isn't even on the course with you. They're on a couch thousands of miles away. On to the next one. And trust me, this hurts in the weirdest way possible. Because how do you go from the round of your life to getting disqualified by something this weird? Nick Barrett wasn't some tour regular. He wasn't flying in on a private jet. He was a 31-year-old UPS driver from Maryland. Just a regular guy chasing a not-so-regular dream. He'd already done the unthinkable by making it through local qualifying with a spotless 68. And now, here he was at the final stage of US Open qualifying, holding his own with a solid 73 in the first round at Woodmont Country Club. Oakmont was just around the corner, and then came lunch. Nick grabbed a quick hot dog after the round, stood up, and suddenly realized something was off. He patted his back pocket, and panic set in. His scorecard was still there, unsigned, unsubmitted. He raced back to the scoring area, but it was too late. The rules don't bend for good intentions. If you don't sign your card, you don't have a score. Disqualified. One of the most brutal disqualifications you'll ever hear. And a reminder that in golf, the hardest hits don't always come from your swing. Next up, something happened on the 17th hole that seemed harmless, barely noticeable really. Just a quick hand gesture. But what it meant, that's where things unraveled fast. During the first round of the Memorial Health Championship, Cole Hammer glanced over and saw Nelson Ledesma's caddy flash 4 fingers, a quiet signal that his player had hit a 4-iron. Hammer gave a nod and flashed his own club in return, like a quick, "Yep, same here." That's it. No words, no drama. But the next day, everything changed. Hammer couldn't shake the feeling that something about that moment crossed a line. He brought it up to officials, just to be safe. And once the Korn Ferry Tour reviewed it, they made their decision. That brief exchange had violated Rule 10.2a, which strictly bans players or caddies from giving or receiving advice during a round. By the 6th hole of round 2, officials stepped in, and the result was immediate. Both players were disqualified. Coming in next, we've got a ban so ridiculous you'd think it came from a parody rulebook. But no, it was real. And it knocked Rory Sabatini out of the tournament faster than a shank off the tee. It's the opening round of the 2021 RSM Classic. Sabatini is rolling, 5 birdies in his last 6 holes, sitting at 4 under, looking sharp. But as he wraps up his round, someone notices something on his club. Not a performance enhancer, not a tech device, just a tiny reflective sticker. That's right, a sticker. It's the kind players use during practice to track club head speed with the launch monitors. Totally harmless, unless you forget to take it off. And Rory did. He used that fairway wood in competition, and that made the club non-conforming under Rule 4.1. The punishment? Not a slap on the wrist, not a warning. He was banned from the tournament. Instantly. His entire round was wiped out, his score erased, all because of a tiny sticker that no one even noticed until After he'd finished playing, Sabatini owned it. He reported it himself. But let's be honest, he didn't get beat by the course. He got beat by adhesive,